Authority to order. Chairman recognizes that we have a quorum. The first order of business is approval of our May 19th regular meeting minutes. Does anybody want to review the minutes and recommend that we approve them?
I move we approve them.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next order of business is approval of the May 26th special call meeting minutes. Remember, we had a meeting the week after that to kind of talk about some special things that came out of executive committee. And do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Jack seconded it. All those in favor of approving those minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved. Chip, you want to talk about airport operations?
Everything's running smooth. Last time I checked with Kyle, all the lights were working, and there are no TAMs out that affect the operation of the airport. It's just a couple of obstacle no TAMs and some changes in instrument approach.
I think there's
minimums.
one PAPI light out. I mean,
Okay.
but we'll, Josh is on top of that.
Okay. I saw Kyle the other day, but I
Okay.
haven't talked to him the last couple of days. But
And also in your package that Nick's doing that arrivals and departures. Did you see in your package there's that graph of looking kind of towards the back? I'd like to include that going forward. What is that? Right after the minutes. You see it?
yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the first time you've seen, but this, Nick does that really every month.
He gives
And
us a recap.
what? Every week. Well, why don't you talk through a little bit of that? I mean, if it's basically, that's what we're capturing with the information, the thing that we set up out there to capture operations. And it's, I think it's pretty good snapshot of where we
Yeah,
are
I mean,
operations. Yeah.
it's the most accurate count we've had up until date. I mean, it's the airplanes that are not ADS-B equipped, it isn't going to show, but it captures more real data than we've had
Yeah.
previously in history, so.
Yeah, I think it's a good addition.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that it shows that the airport's coming back.
Yeah,
I mean, so we've got a, 8-week snapshot, and it shows we're coming, as far as arrivals and departures, they're coming back. So I'm gonna try to include that in the board package once a quarter.
Okay.
So we'll have a sense of where we are and some baseline information.
It looks like some folks are coming and never leaving.
Well,
Hotel
maybe.
California. This is not including Navy traffic?
Nick?
No, sir, it does not include that. It does the gray lots that comes in and out of there, but it does not account for any of the Navy.
Touch and goes. Okay. But it's certainly better than anything we've ever had.
No doubt about it.
Okay. Number 6, any comments on that? All right, touching on the update of the CARES Act FAA grant. We've submitted all the paperwork. I've got to write a narrative this week to actually get the money. But we're still, I think the money's all, but we'll get the money before the next July board meeting. And then we agreed to talk about, at that point in time, what to do with it. Okay, so that's just an update. Okay, number 7 is approval of a renewal of the Genco generator annual maintenance contract. Kind of put this in perspective. Last year, we had some issues with our backup generator. We spent $6,000 replacing the hose and the radiator. And and we actually entered into a contract with them at that point in time to do annual maintenance and do some quarterly checks and then once a year true maintenance. And so this is the renewal of that contract for, it's $800 for the annual maintenance and then $125 each of the quarterly visits, if you will. So I'd like to recommend that we approve the Genco contract. I've got a copy if anybody wants to review it.
Need it?
I move we accept it.
I'll say.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the annual contract with Genco, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the contract is approved. All right, item number 8 is a discussion of the construction of hangars by the authority. This has been laid over for the last couple of meetings. We've talked about it generically, but we really haven't moved forward. Don, you want to move forward on that?
Yes, thanks, Joe. There's been plenty of discussion, and it's time to, in a moment, I'm going to put a resolution, a vote, that we actually adopt what we're talking about, which is to build hangars. And it could be a variety of different style hangars. It could be box hangars, T hangars, large hangars, but our engineer from Volkert, Hank Eubanks, is in here as well as he usually is, and he's been working very closely with us. It's what it is primarily, it's two things. It's, first of all, we're serving the aviation community. What is our character as an airport? We're a small and medium-sized airplane airport. We're not an executive airport. We're not Lakefront New Orleans. We're not Destin. We are Fairhope, and we're a small airplane, small and medium-sized airplane airport. And we just don't have any places to speak of for those hangars, for those airplanes to be. Another reason is that it's a revenue source. We don't have a lot of revenue sources here at the airport, and building hangars would be a wonderful revenue source for the airport itself. We have 19 names on the list, on the waiting list, and that's without even trying too hard, I'll say. We're about to go to a deposit, what, $1,200, $1,500, Joe? I forget the exact number, but a lot of people automatically fall off the waiting list once they're asked to write a check, which is understandable. But I think that of those 19, 9, 10, 11, maybe even 12 will say yes. Everyone's I've spoken to in the recent month or month and a half is really interested in hangars. So with that in mind, we have two options. We can build on the southwest corner, which has been sort of off of our radar for a long time, or we can build on the eastern side, which is improved and was improved last year and a half. That is subject to debate as to what the most cost-efficient place for us to build will be, and that's about it. Now, if anybody has any discussion, I'd love to hear it, but in a moment, I'm going to put it to a vote. I'm going to ask for a vote. I'm going to ask the chairman to put it to a vote, actually, that we actually do so. We vote to build these hangars.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jack.
I want to comment, thank you, Don. I like this a lot. I don't know if I have a preference on the side. I might even favor the east side. It'd be our own catalyst on that east side of the airport. But thank you. I know you've stayed on this, and you know, you're preaching to the choir. We've got to put an investment in there so that we can, you know, we need to be investing in ourselves.
Yes.
And if we can get these funds, that'd be even better if we could get some discretionary funds. But I think it's maybe overdue.
Yes.
And I support you 100%.
Thank you, Jack. It is overdue, and money is, as the phrase goes, money is cheap right now. It really is. And we've got some other sources of money from, well, it's already item number 6 here, the CARES Act. That's $69,000 right there. And there's another potential $250,000 from state of Alabama, potential. But even if we went to a bank and borrowed at preferred rates, I'll call it, it just makes sense to use, the time is right to use other people's money, OPM, and that's what I wanted to say.
Only thing I'd add to that is, and I've done some soul searching about this, I would encourage us, I think the east side is, from just an external cost, getting more bang for our bucks, doing something on the east side is a better investment than doing something on the southwest side, as far as having to build all that infrastructure.
Seems like we'd have to invest in less infrastructure on the east side, right? My only concern, and I'd like to hear from the board on this, is that, you know, I don't want to take prime real estate if we'd get more bang for the buck and putting something, what's the word I'm looking for?
Highest and
That
best
gives
use?
more ROI than
Yeah.
hangars would. I don't know. I think we've got enough space for both. We've talked
Yeah.
about hangars, T hangars, box hangars, shade hangars, tie downs.
I think the east side, I mean, it can accommodate, we can accommodate both. I mean, you know, we've got one solid prospect for the east side now. And we've got 6 good slots, so, you know, it's,
And well, the infrastructure's there.
infrastructure's there.
And the other thing is we go into phase 2, we're gonna have plenty more real estate for larger corporate hangars if the demand's there. So we got room to grow.
It was mentioned at the last meeting by a number of members that we need to do something on that east side. And we need to use that investment, and, you know, it's a good way. I wouldn't put it in the most prime location over there. I don't think we have to.
I'm thinking, yeah.
I agree.
Well, we defer that, we can work with our engineer to come up with his best recommendation of where we put on these.
And I would fast track it even.
I think our east side is better, and Jack, I think to the point you just made, rent income will be much more beneficial to the authority than land rent income. So,
Yeah.
we've returned the bang on our buck much quicker if we're renting it out.
The return on the investment on building the hangars is, if you can get the money, that's the problem we've had in the past is, you know, the return on investment of getting the money to build hangars is about 3 times what it is to lease, to do ground leases.
Well, in terms of years, 6 or 7 years,
Then it's a no-brainer.
well, in terms of years of payback, estimated between 6 and 8 years of rental income would pay off that debt. And then we're free and clear, free and clear. What's that?
Just rental income.
Just rental income, yes.
More money to build more hangars.
We need to invest in ourselves.
And with some grant money, we can reduce that.
And that's why I think it's important that we do something, because that grant money, we want to put out a request for grant money from the ALDOT, and we need to be, I mean, we need to go forward and be timely in doing that, to have a chance of getting that money.
There is an important thing to point out. To get that grant money, we have to do it as per FAA standards, so that's going to increase cost a little bit.
Yeah.
Not to where it flips it upside down.
Right.
Where we could go down on the east side without grant money, or we could do it on the west side, we could do it on the east side without grant money, but the benefit, we're better off to spend a little extra money to meet the FAA standards to get the grant money.
And once we have the deposits in hand, we'll have a very strong idea of exactly how many people we would want to build. I'm conceiving, whatever we have is, let's say arbitrarily, 15 hangars want to be built. I think building 4 or 5 extra, if that works out on the map, that just might make sense, because I think once the word gets out, it's going to really snowball.
I also favor the east side for 2 reasons: the infrastructure, and maybe even more importantly, we can use this as a jump start for development of the east side. We'll see something coming out of the ground.
Yes, right.
The first house in the subdivision. Gotta get the first
Like a
one.
PVC form. That's what we've got now. Do I have a motion? What's your motion, Joe?
Well, my motion is to vote, have a board vote to build these hangars
On the east side?
on the east side. Well, I'll even back up. I'll even say wherever we want to build them.
Okay. Okay.
Why wouldn't we just go ahead and decide at this point on the east side?
We could, sure.
Might save a step.
Yep.
That's a good idea. Well, yeah, okay. So my motion would be that the board has votes to build the hangars on the east side.
Can we say that we'll also at the same time ask for deposits, kind of solicit deposits to make sure, kind of firm where we are too?
I don't think that needs to necessarily be in the vote, but yeah, sure. We're going to be doing that.
Do we need to have in the motion to authorize, you know, the engineer to proceed with designs?
Yeah, I mean, I think all that, I mean,
Yeah, all that's necessary to make this happen, yes, including financing.
Second.
okay. So we had, so you made it, you motioned it, you had a second. And all those in
Jack
favor of the motion, I'll help you with it. Signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Thank y'all. Okay? Josh, you got an attorney's report?
Yes, a couple of things. And I guess I'll start with item C, which is establish escrow deposit account for hangars, only because that's what we just touched on. That was part of our telephone conference with Dr. Egerton. Joe, I don't remember the exact date, but I want to say it was after the meeting the special meeting.
It was a Thursday after the 26th, so it'd be.
That's right. So it was the 28th. And the purpose of that discussion was to talk with Dr. Egerton and also Frank, and I can't remember Frank's last name. Frank Farmer, about the ability of the authority to request funding from AlDOT for construction of hangars either on the southwest side or the east side. And Dr. Egerton said that in the current environment, there would be funding for such a hangar or for a general aviation terminal, but not both. And so, and I think the board has already kind of made its decision and made its intentions known. But Dr. Egerton indicated we could not pursue funding or partial funding for a general aviation terminal and hangars at the same time. And so it would be incumbent on the board to make a decision about what direction they wanted to go in. And of course, I think the decision is to go in the direction of the hangar construction. Dr. Egerton also said that as part of requesting funding for hangar construction, that it would be beneficial and I think increase the odds or chances of getting funding to have a list of prospective tenants, which we've already got that, but in addition to that, to have some kind of an escrow deposit from 10 or 12 or perhaps more prospective tenants to show that not only is there a verbal interest, but they're sort of willing to put their money where their mouth is, if you want to put it that way. But having funds in escrow to sort of reserve spaces within a hangar construction would greatly, according to Dr. Egerton, greatly increase the authority's chances of getting partial funding for the construction of that type of hangar. So, and Joe has requested I draft some kind of an escrow agreement, which I will do. I just haven't had an opportunity to draft it yet, but just a general confirmation of the prospective tenant reserving a spot within the hangar and also making the deposit so that we can show AlDOT that not only do we have the verbal interest, but people have put financial backing behind that verbal interest as well. So, and I'll be happy to try and answer any other questions about the discussion that we had with Dr. Egerton on that point.
So the funding was about 250,000, is that?
We didn't get into the details of an exact number. I know that's an amount that had been discussed with respect to the general aviation terminal.
That's what was the number he threw out for commitment for the general aviation.
Right.
terminal,
So there wasn't a specific monetary amount with respect to the hangar, but that's been the number that had been discussed with respect to the terminal.
I sat in on a conference call Monday where Dr. Egan talked about kind of the state of general aviation. Basically, the fuel tax revenue is down probably 40% from year on year. But the good news is they don't have to put their 5% match in for the AIP programs. So they've got $2.5 million, if you will, that they don't usually have that they can use for discretionary projects. Now, he said he's going to play it pretty close to the vest, and he probably won't commit to do some of these things till September. But I feel relatively confident we would be kind of toward, if we put a good project together with deposits, I think we'd have a good chance at this money.
Hank, I know you can't commit for the state. Is that along the lines that the other two airports recently got?
That's exactly what it is, and the AlDOT state grant is referred to as a 50/50 grant, not to exceed $250,000. So that's where the $250,000 comes from. So if you have a project that's $100,000, you may only get $50,000 as a match. But everybody knows that if you do hangars, you're probably going to be over $500,000 by the time you do pavements and hangars and drainage and everything else. So for those hangar jobs, they want me to just go ahead and say we're going to figure on $250,000. And the other caveat that I would let you guys know about is that there is some verbiage in that grant that I know wasn't part of that discussion, Josh, that we had with Dr. Egerton and Frank that day. But one of the requirements of that grant is that any of the construction that is done prior to award of that grant, they can't cover that. So in other words, you have to basically wait for construction or you have to wait for the grant, then do the construction. So going back to the date that you just said, Joe, where Dr. Hickman was saying maybe August, September, whenever they make the decision to issue the grant, that's when you would probably need to set up to be ready to go to construction. So it need to be through design, end the bid, have a price, and then go.
So how about this? How about you start on 10 of them, and when you get the grant, you can build the second 10?
Yeah, or build the,
You
yeah,
can do that too.
yeah. Or build the fill, put the fill in and whatever.
And they don't say that grant does not say, okay, well, it only pays for this bit of pavement and not the hangar, where the FAA grant would say, we're not paying for the hangar, we're paying for the taxiway to access the hangar.
And-
So the IDOT grant would pay for anything.
And if there's if we do build 2 sets of hangars, that taxiway that we need between the 2 hangars, we could conceivably go back and ask the FAA for that in a future grant.
Yes, definitely on what you do on the east side. you could.
Okay. So that'd be another 90 or, $100,000. It wouldn't be this year, but it would be a reimbursement.
So in 60 days, we need to have our plan, be ready, have it bid, and hope we'll get the grant. Or have alternate funding outside of that for the balance of that if we don't get.
But one point, we are going to move with diligence. We're going to move with,
We're going to move forward.
we're going to move forward, no debating this. We're moving forward with hangars.
That gives us a chance to be
Yeah.
done by the end of the year, but
That's right.
probably in the first quarter sometime.
I'll take care of the weather.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right.
I'll
That's
hire you to
good.
jump with contracting if you can control the weather.
Sounds like a plan. All right, Josh, moving on, you got to talk about the 40-year lease?
Sure. There was discussion at the special call meeting last month about the ability of the authority to enter into a 40-year lease, and that was the subject of a telephone conference with Graham Kofelt of the Federal Aviation Administration office in Jackson. And Mr. Kofelt, frankly, was on board with it. He said that 40 years would be an allowable lease term. He did caution us that no lease should exceed 40 years, but that if the authority on the east side determined that it was in the best interest of the airport to move forward with a 40-year lease term, that would be allowable under the FAA grant assurances and the other guidance that the FAA puts out about their lease terms. So that was, in a nutshell, the telephone conference that we had with Mr. Kofelt. And again, the purpose of that telephone conference was to follow up on the discussion that this board had back on May the 26th about whether we could do that. Mr. Kofelt said that would be allowable on the east side.
And I want to add,
Without adjusting.
without-
west side.
With no impact to the west
With
side.
no impact to the west side. That's correct. That's correct. In fact, and that was specifically mentioned, the fact that we only had 30-year leases on the west side. Mr. Kofelt's position, I think this is accurate, is the east and west sides are not similarly situated. The infrastructure improvements on the east side of the airport are brand new, and for that reason, he felt that there could be differences between the leases on the east side versus the west side. Specifically, the 40-year lease term was what was mentioned. We really didn't get into what other, well, no, I believe he said that an increased price would be fair on the east side. So an increased per square foot ground lease rate on the east side would also be allowable. And you wouldn't violate what he said, the economic non-discrimination provisions of the FAA requirements for the funding.
would not be violated.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Final thing, while you're on a roll, why don't you talk, any update on negotiations with ground tenants for the east side?
I'm going to, Joe, would you mind talking about you've been more involved on
We've
that
sent somebody- we've
than
sent
I
a
have.
Potential tenant a lease
Uh-huh.
with the 40-year terms and the tenant and the ground lease rate. And I think we're certainly are in negotiations with them.
And you bring up a good point, Joe. We had the discussion with Mr. Kofelt. The board has not voted to authorize a 40-year lease. So, that's, in my opinion, we can't move forward until the board authorizes that because we have never had, to my knowledge, a 40-year lease on any part of the airport.
Approving a 40-year lease or waiting till the 40-year lease came back to approve the lease terms?
We would need to approve it before offering it to somebody. wouldn't we?
Correct, that's correct.
Then that's what we need to do,
In your opinion?
in my opinion. In my opinion, we need to put out a resolution that we approve a 40-year lease term for the east side hangars.
So would you think that would be at the same rate that we're currently charging per square foot?
I would think we could raise that lease rate to maybe, I would propose 30 cents a square foot.
I agree.
I've done some that's a nice lease rate.
So if we were to change that, then we would have a 30-year, 27 cent a square foot lease, or a 40-year, 30 cent a square foot lease, if we change it.
Yeah, if a tenant came back to me and said he wanted a 30-year, on the east side, wanted a 30-year, 27 cent square foot, I guess we could do that, but
We can always do less.
we can always do that.
That's the question I would have. Can you go back to the existing rate and do a 30-year lease
I think if
on
we-
the east side?
If we approved it that
We
way,
approved
that
it,
our
we can.
max would be 40 years at this initial rate.
Initial rate, but we can still have escalators in
Oh,
the,
yeah. it's
Correct, that's
12.5%,
correct.
yeah. Yeah, we've got a 12.5% escalation after 5 years.
okay.
That
I didn't know,
didn't change
the FAA allows for that, right?
Yeah, it
In
may-
5 years, they're not going to say that we're discriminating against somebody economically because.
No, that's correct.
Because
They-
we raised the price of the
And,
land. lease.
and the guidance they provide actually encourages escalation clauses because they know with a long-term lease like that, you're going to have inflation and so forth. So they encourage escalation clauses with the longer-term leases.
And as a sidebar, both our Mid-Bay and Cedar Creek leases have just escalated 12.5%. We sent them out your lease is now 12.5% your increase for this year going forward. So that's the first time we've escalated it after 5 years.
So Josh, if we were to approve a 40-year at 30 cent per square foot, but that would not have any exclusion that we could go 30 years or 25 if for some reason somebody wanted it at a beginning rate of 27 cents, but no less than 27 cents.
I just want to make sure I understand the question. If a subsequent tenant came along and said, well, I don't want 40, I just want 30, and can I get a little bit lower lease rate, would that be allowable?
27 cents.
27 cents? Yes, I believe so. And Hank, I wanted to ask you if I'd omitted anything from the discussion or if there was anything else that Graham talked about that I've
I think
left
the
out.
lease rate, the way I interpreted what he was saying, we can always clarify later, but the way I interpreted it was whatever the lease rate is today, is the lease rate for today for everybody. And then when you make it to that time when it's time to put inflation on it, then now that lease rate goes up for everybody. And the one thing that FAA did allow that I think you had omitted that you didn't remember was the type of hangar or type of lease.
That's right.
So like he was talking about, if you had T-hanger spaces, those could be, you could differentiate between a T-hanger space versus a corporate hangar space and have a different lease rate for those two types of occupancy, if you want to call it that. But my interpretation was, so in this case, what Vince is asking is if one tenant moves out and the lease rate was 30, and he started a new lease, would he go back to his original lease that was approved back some other time at 27? I think not. I think he has to go from the time, whatever that lease is at that time.
What I'm trying to eliminate is the future conversation of, hey, I want a 20-year lease, so I want to negotiate. I don't want to pay 27 cents, I want to pay 15, and the answer is no. So if we made that motion, I'm just saying, well, put that in there, that it'll never be less than 27 is the starting rate. That's all, because somebody said, well, I want a 20-year lease, and give me 15 cents a square foot, and we get into individual negotiations forever.
Right, right.
But you'd be okay if somebody came in and said, I want a 20-year lease and pay 27 cents a square
Sure.
foot. And that's the best of all.
Sure. We
Yes,
just
for
want to
us.
establish that 27,
Okay.
that it's non-negotiable.
I mean, the public safety hangar lease is 27 cents for 10 years.
Well, that's,
I mean,
it's a different
yeah,
group, too.
different, yeah. A lot different, okay.
But, yeah.
So do we have a motion do we have a motion to approve a 40-year, offer a 40-year lease with 30-year, 30 cents per square foot to a tenant that we're discussing?
I'll make a motion that we offer on the east side 40-year leases at an initial rate of 30 cents per square foot. And you can take less years if you choose at a minimum square foot rate of 27 cents per square foot as a start.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? Jack?
Yep. I think it's a terrible idea, guys. I think we're just hamstringing ourselves forever. I mean, I thought Don had said, why don't we try for a 35? Before you do this, last meeting, we were minutes away from voting on a 40-year lease before we got all the information we needed from the FAA. And fortunately, the motion was withdrawn, so we didn't get into that. But the amount of lease that you lose in income in those last 10 years, as we pointed out, could be about $600,000 per property. And if you have 2 or 3 or 4, it could add up to millions of dollars over those final 10 years.
Because you're leasing buildings as opposed to.
Because you're leasing buildings as opposed to a simple ground lease. And I'm talking today's dollars. That's not 40 years from now dollars. There's another thing is that if somebody builds say $1 million hangar, does that price allow somebody to come in there and say, I want to build a $100,000 hangar? Do they get the same rate and they get 40 years? I mean, we're going to get taken advantage of, and it's hard because I know you're all buddies with everybody that owns planes and everybody out there, but it's a bad business move. It's a bad move. It's just not a good move for the airport authority. I don't think.
Jack, your rationale and arithmetic
is on the last 10 years, instead of us being able to lease that building
and we
for, say, $5,000 a month, which would be $60,000 a year, times 10 years is $600,000.
right, okay.
Jack, not to parry with you a little bit.
Now, you can deduct the cost of the ground lease from that.
Yeah, but the present value of those future cash flows from 30 years to 40 years, that's a long time away. Those cash flow values are not, that $60,000 is not as valuable 30 years from now as it is today.
Well, no, but neither is the number that I used. That $60,000 a year may be $80,000 a year, $90,000 a year in 40 years. It could be $100,000. I don't know.
Well, the comment I was going to make was, if you're a businessman, and you are a businessman, but if a hypothetical businessman comes up and says, a business person comes up and says, 30 years just isn't enough time for me I'm going to spend $1.5 to $2 million on a hangar. 30 years doesn't make my math work. 40 years does. Maybe 35 years does. I don't know. But everything I'm hearing from people in the know that need large hangars, 30 years just doesn't cut it.
It cut it for 2 people.
Who are those 2 people?
The 2 that we have on the west side. We have 2 30-year leases on the west side. So
At 19 and 21 cents a square foot.
yeah, but just do the math on the final 10 years on that. Throw the ground lease out. That's inconsequential. And of course, the businessman's going to tell you, because if they can get a 40-year lease versus a 30-year lease, they're going to tell you it doesn't work out financially.
I get that. Trust me.
I mean, they're going to say that.
Jack, I have a lot of friends on airplanes. I don't know any of them that want to lease any space right now. But I do know our competition's offering 40 years.
And that may change, and that may be so right now. I don't dispute that, but it may change in a year or 2 or 3.
Theirs is not going to go down, I assure you. They're not. They can't. They increased it to 40 years because they were not doing them all the same. But our only competition is giving 40-year leases.
Now, who is that? Jack Edwards.
And Destin's.
And currently at a much
Destin's
cheaper per square
35.
foot land lease rate.
Okay.
I don't know. Now that I'm sure will change sometime.
Mobile's is granulated on basically the value of the building, and then Destin's is 35 to 40.
I could probably swallow this pill a little more if it was based on some kind of sliding scale of cost of the structure, but we can't do that, right?
But we can. That's what they do at Mobile.
That's what they do in Mobile.
I mean, you know, like I said, if somebody was putting in a $3 million hangar, that's a lot more palatable versus somebody that's gonna come in there and put in a $250,000 hangar. The numbers make sense, but, you know, if we just assume every building's the same and we don't put it in the resolution, so doesn't matter what the value of your building is, the 40-year lease doesn't make sense to me. And once again, I don't want to rush into it. If somebody can come up with a scale that makes sense.
So we've got a motion on the table for a 40-year lease at 30 cents a square foot with the exception.
Mobile has that escalator in there based on the size of your hangar and the dollars, and they have absolutely zero over there right now. They have the same number we have on the east side. They also have about $1 million staff that's monitoring that all day, every day, which we have zero on that also. So we have no way to govern that. We're not going to have any $250,000 hangars because the minimum square foot we have, which I think is either 6,000 or 8,000.
8,000 square feet.
But based off our minimum square footage, we won't, all our hangars will be well over $500,000, closer to $1 million, except for T hangars.
What is,
Closer to $1
Corporate
million.
hangars.
What is our time frame urgency for a decision on this?
We have one person that claims they want to sign a 40-year lease right now. That doesn't mean they're going to sign it, but they claim they want to because 40 years makes sense. And I don't think we're going to get a whole lot until Jack Edwards gets full. It's not that long a drive to get 10 more years on your lease. That's my personal opinion. Not that it's urgent, but we're trying to get tenants. That part is urgent.
Yeah. Well, could we ask them for a lease proposal and see how serious they are about putting ink on paper?
I'm sure we can. Sure.
So what about the idea of Jack's putting some type of, if it's over 750 or whatever, you know, or certain size hangar that they can go 40 years versus, but I agree with you, you're not gonna, those size hangars are gonna cost around 750,000 to 600 to 750.
How you gonna know?
How do you know?
I can build one at cost, and you can build one and hire me to build.
But even if you build it at I think that his idea was a good one on the square footage, though, because you could just base that on an estimate.
Okay.
You can't fudge the plans of the square footage. You can fudge your construction costs, and if you go out and build a $2 million hangar, and because you're a contractor, you can do it for $1 million, I don't care. You're inheriting a $2 million investment.
What size hangar would you say?
I would defer to you guys for that.
100 by 100 by 100, 100 by 110? 10,000? That's what size of Allen hangars and.
I prefer there not be a stipulation on it, so I'm not the right one to look at while you ask.
Because
10,000 square foot? Or greater?
I'm okay with 10,000 square feet.
40 years? Less than 10,000?
Okay, which brings up the question. is
Then
that
it's
okay
99.99. I
with
mean,
the
you know, that's
FAA?
the
Then
problem.
Now we're,
My short answer is I don't know if that's okay with the FAA. Hank, did we touch on that at all when we?
I mean, the way I interpreted what he was saying was that you can have.
We could have some kind of a sliding scale based on the square footage of the hangar construction?
Based on the class of hangar,
Mhm.
which in this case, y'all talking about would be the size of the hangar.
Right, and I think what we specifically discussed was the T hangar versus the corporate hangar,
Yeah, but I
but,
think there's multiple ranges in there.
Within that?
As long as you kind of establish what that scale is, I don't think the FAA necessarily cares that you go from a 1,200 square foot hangar to, say, a 5,000, and you had a range in that had a dollar amount and a lease time associated with that, and then go to a 10,000, and then that changed, as long as it made sense.
okay.
And one way that, if I could step in and offer one recommendation of sizing, we could look at it as there's different classes of aircraft, like a Class A, a Class B, a Class C, a Class D. And you could use those to figure out a square footage for what that range would be. You know what I'm saying? I know that if it was a small aircraft like a Cessna or something versus a, I don't know, something with a 50-foot wingspan, you know, that's gonna take more square footage for storage. But they have different classes for aircraft.
How much of a problem is it for us to, I mean, I don't know, maybe we ask Hank to make some recommendations. How much of a, you know, can you move forward with negotiations that you bring back before us? We don't have to sign that yet.
Why don't,
I don't want to rush this. We've
Okay.
got, this is 40 years in the making. We don't need to rush this.
why don't we do this? There's a motion there, why don't we vote on that motion, or does somebody want to withdraw their motion? This is your motion?
There's been a motion, just procedurally, there's been a motion and a second, so the body would have to agree to allow the motion to be withdrawn.
But to answer your question, timing-wise, I mean, I think we need to do it timely. I think we've got another month to do it. I mean, I think if we do it in July, we're fine.
I'm happy with getting some information and calling a special meeting in 2 weeks or so, just to, because I mean, I do sympathize with the person that wants to build the hangar as well. I mean, I want their business, but I want to make sure it's a good deal for both of us.
Chip, do you know how many?
We only have
hangars-
so much property.
Do you know how many hangars that are Jack Edwards that are less than 10,000 square feet? Off the top of your head. Half of those?
I'd say,
I'm not talking about the T hangar versions, I'm talking
Yeah.
about the corporate hangar.
I'm saying probably half of them or less.
You got a lot of,
My mind counting down.
80 by 80s.
All the ones that have been built on that southeast corner, two of them have been built, they were both 100 by 100s, and then there's getting ready to be another one that's gonna be bigger than that.
And then those existing along the west side are 80 by 80 to 80 by 100s.
I think 80 by 80 is the smallest. And then there are some good-sized corporate hangars. One might even be more than 100 by 100.
Now one on the north end, huge.
That's Crucius hangar.
Do you want to withdraw your motion?
I'll be glad to withdraw it. I'm not gonna make another one. I think we've gone down this road enough, so
Okay.
I'll withdraw it.
I'll withdraw a second.
All right, we will table this to our July meeting, and we'll come back. So is it the pleasure to have some gradation about the size of the hangar, and have a signed lease, have a lease ready to be signed? Is that the board's pleasure?
I guess, I mean, we had two things. I guess we need to make a decision on the size of the hangar and the rate and the time of the ground lease. I mean, that's be our decision. But Will did make that's, you know, if we want to see what the two potential customers with ground leases, what their input is.
Okay. All right, so we'll table it to next month, and we'll work towards getting,
We need to specify exactly what kind of information we want to get. But, I mean, we can work through that over the next several weeks.
Do you need any other construction specifications other than just square footage? Should there be a little bit more?
Well, you know, if you got to build it to code,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
what they've said at Gulf Shores is, we don't ask a dollar amount, because if they build it to code, the money, they're going
Right.
to have to put the money.
Does it have to have, say, a door?
oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's part of our architectural review also, is type of doors, consistency of color and all that.
As long as that's all included, we don't need to hash that out then.
That's already in
Okay.
the lease, and I think, you know, that's subject to, I think, us just setting the standard of what we want.
Okay, so we'll table this to next month. We'll work to come up with some parameters for the hangar, and And we'll also work with a potential tenant to see where they are as far as the ground lease.
One more comment,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Vince, thank you. I know it's not pleasant for me at all, but
No problem. I feel like, and I do need to say this, if we vote on a 40-year lease, if it doesn't get us some tenants, we can always change it. But we're going to lose some tenants to our competitor that we're not going to have an opportunity to get back, and we keep putting it off and putting it off, and they're moving that way, and I don't blame them. I'd like to build one myself one day, but I'm not going to build it in
give you a
Fairhope.
22-year lease.
Yeah, because it's too easy to drive to Gulf Shores.
And like Vince said, 10 years from now, you have a 40-year lease, it's gonna be easy to sell your hangar. But if you're 10 years into a 30-year lease, it's not gonna be that easy to sell.
Josh, anything else on the attorney's report?
No, nothing else on the attorney's report.
I think okay. Continental Aerospace's report? Yeah, would you come to, come to, go ahead, Nick.
Sorry for being a little late, but yeah, the one Pappy light is out
Okay.
today. That's the only light that's out. Let's see what we have up first. The abandoned aircraft is basically just waiting on gentlemen to come get it. It's sorted. We're gonna show them how to take
Have
it
you,
apart.
we have a contract for our sales contract? Okay. I'm gonna take that off then, guys. It's
Yeah.
only been there 9 months.
We're just gonna help him just
Okay.
properly dispose of it.
That's good.
Then we've talked several times on the key fobs and access to the north and south gates. Us as Continental, we're happy to support that. Just tell us what we need to do. As far
Well, I
as-
think the decision on that was kind of wait till some of these other things were push that forward a couple months and just see where we are as far as financially.
And that's fine. And one thing we wanted to bring up that Steve and I have discussed a few times is, just improving the security as we move forward, turnstile, walk-through gates, just to give a little better security.
I think that's something we need to move forward on. I think we're a little.
And I look at more safety, not security. And we have some randoms come up, which I'm fine to greet anybody who wants to come look at airplanes. I just look at it, if I'm in mine, I can't see anyone in front of me. And there's a few others like that out there. And some people just don't know how to be around them. With that, we can control escorting and such. But anybody who's a member of the airport would be able to come and go as they please. But it would add just a little level of safety.
I'll
Also.
offer the picture ID and you charge for it, an annual fee that helps defray the cost issue.
And we're happy to help manage that and do the footwork with that. But everything else is going real smooth. Business is picking back up pretty.
Fuel cells are off how much?
Fuel cells are back up to normal now, but back in April, March, it was lower.
They're back up to the February, March level? Or
Back past. Like to last year's
Back
level.
last weekend.
That's good.
It was back last.
Yeah, we're doing
Okay.
steady traffic and both shops are staying busy and.
Are you still on the reduced operating hours, or have those gone back to?
We're still now,
normal?
but we're looking at getting some higher, what's the right word? Some people back so we can go to the normal hours, so that will be incoming. Hopefully by next meeting, we'll be back to normal, but I'll stay with Joe and, of course, Chip, you'll know right off the bat, when we're back to normal. But it's coming within weeks.
Okay.
Anything else? And,
Those B3s buying gas?
yes,
Good.
that one will be, so anybody wants to look, it's gonna be leaving again later this week, early next week, so.
Wasn't that part of the deal? They had to buy gas to park? That's a pretty nice,
Yep, so there, and that's going,
Obviously, business is good, because I've noticed y'all been having to park planes over on.
yeah,
each
we've
ramp,
been
which
putting
is-
some planes
their
over
ramp's
there
good.
also, so it's been,
We get some use out of it.
and when we get the survey done, or you get the survey done of the runway, and we get an engineering disposition on what the maximum weight is, we can actually fuel some of those planes a little bit heavier that are parking over there. So that's a limiting factor right now, too. We know the ramp's weight, we just don't know the runway's.
okay.
I
Thank
hadn't
you.
thought about that. We can fill them up on the ramp, we just can't let them take off.
We're rolling now. Will, do you want to talk about the website?
Ben Montgomery is here, and Ben has graciously volunteered to head up the website rework effort. Come on up, Ben, and give a report at the microphone. Ben is a volunteer from the Advisory Council, and we appreciate your efforts.
Sure. I guess if tonight's any indication, we need this website up and running, modernized, and we've obviously got a lot going on. And I found somebody who can really help out with it. I've talked to a couple of tech buddies, and our website's kind of antiquated. There's whoever built it to maintain it themselves.
Yep.
And I found a lady that can do it. She can do it within a week. I've compiled all of our updates that I got from Chip and William and and everybody else, and some suggestions I had. And she can do the whole thing for $925. Now, she wanted to charge a monthly maintenance fee of $500, which I think is too much. I don't think she really understood what we really need. We're not selling T-shirts and hats off this website. I think, I really think we can revisit that and just, maybe she can charge us an hourly rate for just different stuff. I mean, I'd like to be able to send her pictures, from a fly-in, or, updates as the hangar sales go, as our stuff with the FAA moves forward, have links to different things, be able to just have that continual update. I don't think we need somebody messing with this thing every day, but it definitely needs to be updated. I kind of keep up with the Facebook page. That's easy to do. I can do that myself, but I'd like for y'all to consider just having her go ahead and rebuild the site from scratch, and then I'll talk to her tomorrow about, either a lower monthly rate for, just basic updates we might send her, or I could ask her if she'd just do an hourly rate. Hey, could you just bill us, $15 an hour for, adding something that, Don might have, for the hangar side or whatever. It's up to you guys, but we definitely need to do something soon. And anyway, that's about it. I mean, we've got a lot going on, and, it'd be nice to be able to steer people to our site who might be interested in hangar space or, development, or other investments in the airport. And a lot of people just like to look at stuff, a lot of pilots.
Yeah.
We all do that as pilots. We kind of check out the field. And, anyway, it'd be nice to have it updated. So anyway, that's where we are.
Thanks. The website is something, you're right, we're not selling T-shirts. There may be 2 or 3 weeks in a row where we don't have any updates at all.
Yeah.
So a monthly fee, flat fee, probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, I
that
don't think we
well.
need it. I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot of really updating. We just need we need her to just rebuild the whole thing, make it nice, make it modern, update, the ATIS information, all the other stuff, all the contacts, the Continental guys, the stuff that you guys sent us. I drew it all out and gave it all to her, and she got on the side. I gave her the back end, the password, and all that stuff. She's like, "This thing's a nightmare." Anyway, I said, "I know. I've been fooling around with it. I couldn't figure it out." So, that's where we are. We just need to. I think it's a good investment. I'll talk to her tomorrow and see if we can negotiate a simple monthly rate or an hourly rate or something like that. That's palatable to everybody. So,
Do you think the $925 for a complete rework is reasonable?
I think it's real reasonable.
Yeah.
Like she said, it'd take her 5 or 6 days. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it for $925. So, anyway, I think, and I'll work with her on that. We can all review it as it goes. Obviously she doesn't know anything about airports and airspace and aviation, but if we need to give her, we need to get this thing moving.
Somebody you have confidence in? You have confidence, she's somebody you've
Yeah,
worked with before?
yeah, absolutely.
Local person?
Yeah,
Good.
she lives here. She's got the time to do it, and, we can send her pictures, gallery shots. Some of the, we did a little drone video of the East End.
Looks like an airport.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity right now. We got a lot going on, and, this is the time to do it, because people do look at that, and,
They do.
it also saves some of you guys from having people blow up your phone asking questions about, hangars, grants, fuel, the usual stuff. So anyway, I'll have an update tomorrow as far as that monthly fee, and we can go from there. So,
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we authorize an expenditure not to exceed $925 for a complete rework of the website under Ben's supervision with this contractor.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We're going to get the website
If you need a
revamped.
picture of the water every day, you need to be friends with Ben on Facebook.
That's right.
You've got one every single day.
And no mountains, Ben, no mountains, no mountains. We gotta
that?
get away-
No mountains?
We got to get away from the mountains.
We can put some mountains somewhere, you know?
We
We've
just-
got a lot of land on the other side.
We can't-
You know,
we can't
How
talk
about a
about
landfill?
mountain.
We can
No
put a
more
landfill
mountain.
over there. Nothing else, and nobody buys it.
We got to take
Thank
the
you, Ben.
mountains out.
We
Hey,
have a different picture of water of the Gulf on Facebook every day.
Every day. I love it.
I skipped the engineer's report. I moved on quickly. Hank, do you have some comment? We need to approve the application or to application for, yes, we do, because the city actually approves it, but we need to approve it before that, and we won't meet again in July. So we need to approve it, making application for the $611,000 in grant.
I think you made that last meeting, we already submitted the application.
No, but to accept the grant.
Well, the grant, when the grant is issued, then you will make the motion.
But I think in my experience, it's shown up in such a time that we didn't meet, and we put the city in the position of accepting it before we accepted it. So I wanted to go ahead and accept
Yeah, I
it.
guess you could make a motion to accept based on the amount that was put on the application.
Yeah.
And once it comes in, then you
Well,
would
I
have
just
the
don't, I
authority
mean,
to
what
sign, but
happens is I
that's-
don't want to tell Jack that you need to put on the agenda to accept the grant application in July, and we have not approved it, or approved accepting it. Jack, does that
But when
make
do we
sense?
think we'll get word that the
Fine,
grant has
but,
been
you know,
approved?
Whatever we need to do, it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's,
the city as a sponsor is
city is a
primarily
sponsor.
responsible for all of the acceptance actions. I mean, I know we've done resolutions in the past to confirm, well, what we've done is resolutions to confirm the authority's 5% match.
Yeah.
right.
But there is no
There's
match this
match-
year,
There's no
is
match
there?
on this money. This is all free money.
So, well, we can let that go.
I mean, Mr. Chairman, it doesn't hurt. I just don't know that it would be absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, that, and I would agree with, I think with what Josh is saying, is that it's, whenever the grant award comes, you just say, yeah, we'll take the free money. I don't know how else to say that, but, yeah.
You did pretty.
But the status of that is that you have a seal coat project and an extension of the access road southward along 13. Both of those were added to the application. We tried to get the alternate for the fuel farm loop added to that extension of the road, but didn't go through, so the FAA instructed us to just put the southward extension and the seal coat project on there. The other project was the master plan, which you guys executed a contract on at the last regular scheduled board meeting. We've started issuing sub-consulted agreements for the aerial photography and LiDAR survey that's got to be done, and second ground controls. And then we've also set the sub-consulted agreements out for doing the PCN, the pavement classification. Notice on the.
What is it called? What's that called? Pavement
it's-
classification?
Yes, pavement classification number is what we're trying to determine.
PCN. Okay.
And every aircraft has an ACN, which is an aircraft classification.
And we'll have that done by July?
No.
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
When we have
But
that
the
done.
sub-consulted agreement is out there. We're waiting on that to be executed. And once that gets executed, then we'll be coordinating, getting those guys on the airport.
So when do you think the PCN will be?
It's really kind of dependent on when those guys from Ohio can come down here and do it.
Can we get that? Do we have to wait till the ALPs?
No.
We can get that number?
Yeah, that can go ahead and start. That's not pending anything.
And my understanding is we can go ahead with the
On the east side. What we do need to do is determine where we want to put them based on what we've got currently shown. I know there was some discussion about looking at like 14, 15 or something. But if, we had some situated down there on that far northeast corner.
next phase.
Yeah, and if we wanted to put them there, then we don't have to make any changes whatsoever to them. But And especially with this we're not requesting FAA money for it, although we are requesting state money. State tends to not be as stringent. So we should be able to move forward, and then, since we've got something over there as far as.
Can you
improvement.
help put together a plan of what would be the best use of one of those, slots for one of those plats for T-hangers?
Yeah. Yeah, I recommend that the board all come to an agreement with where that thing's gonna be before we actually get into plan production, for sure. So if you guys want me to send something and issue it, like if you wanna look at what we've got currently, that's fine, but if we know that's not what we want, then
I don't
give me
think what
some
we
sort
have
of-
now currently will work. I think that's too far away,
Okay.
okay?
You talking about the T-hangers that are at the loop now?
Yeah, that we're on that northeast
I think
corner
we're
at the
okay.
end of that taxiway.
You know, we got P10, 11, now it goes 12, 13,
12, 13, and 14's the southernmost of the corporate
We were
lot.
kind of thinking 13 and 14,
Okay,
but I'm not speaking for the whole group.
yeah.
No, I'm thinking of that way too. Lay out something efficient.
How many we could.
I can lay some.
I guess it'd be, I mean, we've kind of talked about maybe building, what, 2 rows of 8?
Yeah.
But some would be a 45-foot door, and some would probably be a standard like we have now, or
Okay.
they built up even that.
So try to put something in lots 13, 14 area,
Something like
and,
there, because we could make those the 45-foot doors and always save this other for a normal size T-hanger like we have on the
Okay.
west side.
I can sketch something up. And
That's just a
then,
thought.
And then the taxiway, we could get FAA funding for at some point in time,
at some point, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
between the two hangars.
Mhm.
Because if we built 2 rows there, we get to double up on the taxiway and help ourselves a little bit in
Yeah.
between.
But then, I guess the other thing is you basically gonna have to build 3 taxiways if you do T-hangers. Because you gotta do 2 sets of T-hangers, you gotta have access on the outside and then access in the middle going away
And
from
the northernmost, when you're going to have a taxi.
Yeah.
And the one in the middle, we're gonna pay for about 1.5 because they can share.
Yes.
Between.
Yeah.
In a full
Mhm.
lease.
And both of those taxiways are potentially reimbursable.
Yes.
Unless, Hank, you can think of a better way to lay them out.
And I'll look and see, we'll do a couple, trying to twist some stuff around, turn some stuff, kinda like what we did down there on
Yeah.
the southwest to try to utilize that space as best we could. We'll do the same thing over here. If the focus is now shifted towards, smaller aircraft and T-hanger, box hanger style, we just need to kinda know where you wanna keep the corporate size hangars versus where the smaller hangars need to go. And if 13 and 14 is where we wanna focus, that's what we'll do.
But on our long-range plan, right now, we have 100 by 100 hangars
That's-
drawn on there, and that's just an idea.
Right, yeah. We
So-
show infrastructure there that we had a plan. It's not to say that plan can't be modified for this. It's not kicking you out of any.
Without waiting on our
Right,
long-range
yeah,
plan.
yeah. And then outside of that, I guess that's all I got to report.
Okay.
Unless y'all got any questions.
Any questions? All right, treasurer's report. Amy's not here, but she always does the exceptional job on the graphs. We're a little down on revenues, primarily because of the fuel cells, but, and because we had planned to lease another set of hangars on ground leases that hadn't come to fruition, but we're doing an awfully good job on expenses, so, overall, it's pretty much a wash. Any questions on the revenues or expenses, or,
Let me make sure I'm reading this correctly.
okay?
Income versus budget, year-to-date is down $9,500, but expenses, year-to-date versus budget, are down $6,500, so we're only $3,000 to the bad.
$3,000 to the bad, yes, sir.
Okay.
And then, the big thing is our maintenance. And our maintenance, we spent $18,300 in general airport maintenance against a budget of $40,000. So we're $21,000 to the good on maintenance, and we don't really have that many. I mean, we're 9 months, almost 9 months into it, so we should be okay. Balances have picked back up. I mean, we got some money in the bank. So, only thing we've got, the big thing is in August, we've got to write that $200,000 check. So, whatever. Final thing is, Amy did this graph, which is looking at the, we've talked about maybe refinancing the debt. And if you remember, the debt's at 2.18%. And what we were told by the bankers were when they said, they would refinance it at this rate, they said, well, we're just going to track the 5-year treasury for the next, 6 months or whatever. Well, the 5-year treasury has gone off the cliff. So, I mean, the 5-year treasury is this is an average of the 5-year treasury. The 5-year treasury is like less than 3%, less than 30 basis points. So this is an average of the 5-year treasury. So if we went to refinance this now on the 6-month moving average, it'd be 0.65. The longer we wait, the more money, the more opportunity there is. So, that's kind of this is pretty visual of kind of what the interest rates are doing. So I guess my recommendation is we probably ought to wait another couple of months and then kind of bang on some guys and see what we can do. Jack, you have any thoughts on that?
I was just trying to find that rate real quick. I know it was 6. I want to say like
It was
0.286.
It was 0.28. It was, one day it was under 3. Amy in our text, when it goes under 3, she texts me and says, what's under 3?
When's our buyout clause up?
March.
March?
So we're kind of confined to, one bank right now, but I think they'll be receptive. My sense of it is that, we'd have to pay 1 year a prepayment penalty, 1 year's interest, about $60,000.
But only if you move banks.
What?
But only if you move banks, is that
When we
right?
change bank, if the bank that we're with
Right.
works with us, which, they should,
Mhm.
then we should be okay.
Right.
Anything else?
That last proposal, they quintupled their fee.
Yeah, that last proposal, they weren't responsive. They
We
didn't.
We would have saved money by paying the 1-year penalty and moving on at
Yeah,
that rate at
yeah,
that time.
yeah. But, they didn't know what, that was in March, Vince, and I'm not sure they knew what rates were gonna do, or this was a glitch, or was it gonna be?
I think they gave us a great quote, a great proposal, except for their fee went from
Yeah,
10 to 56, basically.
yeah, that's exactly right. Okay. Any question, recognize any business from the audience? Any other business? Anybody wants to talk about? You want to tell us, is this why is the scout troop? We appreciate y'all being here.
We bored one to sleep on.
Yeah.
We let sleeping Bear Scouts lie. Right. No, so I'm Commander Cox of Troop 47, and we have Finley Gambino and my son Maximus, both second-class scouts with the troop. And they have some advancement requirements we're taking care of today, and as well as communication merit badge. And so one of the things that we do is we come out and we see public process, right? And we just want to thank everyone for your eloquence and for your diligence and taking care of the airport authority and the community. And we're here learning, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Listen, as an Eagle Scout, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm biased, but I really appreciate what you do for our community. I really do.
Happy to be here.
Come back anytime.
Did anybody else have any comments? Mr. Hanson? Zach? Okay. Recognizing no more comments, I'll adjourn the meeting at 5:40. Thank y'all.
All right.